India, as we know, is one of the most important riverine countries in the world. Thus, agriculture is the most important occupation here. Can you tell which is the second most important occupation in India? Is it mining, trade, jewelry making, or teaching? Let me give you a hint. All kingdoms and civilizations that have been established on the river banks have experienced prosperity with the help of this. Yes, the correct answer is trade. Trade is India's second most important occupation and probably the most important item which India has always exported is cotton textiles. In the 18th century, India, mainly the region of Bengal, was the largest producer of cotton textiles in the world. And the most amazing fact is that in the 18th century, there were no machines. So all these were made by hand. So naturally, the prices of these was a bit higher. But irrespective of its price, Indian textiles were popular worldwide. This was mainly because of its extremely good quality. Naturally, a lot of bullion, that is silver and gold, started coming into India, and this boosted the economy of the country. But soon this changed. In the year 1760, some people in England found that using a machine, one could spin cotton faster and more easily. Thus, the Industrial Revolution in England began. And soon they were able to produce more number of cotton textiles within the same period of time compared to what was being produced by hand. Now, in order to ensure that their industries flourished, Britain required two things: a constant and cheap source of raw materials and a market to sell their machine-made goods. The solution, if you think about it, is really simple. By then, Britain had colonized most parts of Asia and Africa, including the country of India, which was then the largest producer of not only cotton textiles, but cotton as well. So, Britain could easily purchase raw cotton from India at cheap rates and sell its finished products here. So, how did they do this? Firstly, the British issued huge amounts of tax on Indian textiles in Britain. This went on rising to an extent when people had to pay 400% of the price as tax to buy one Indian cotton handkerchief. This naturally destroyed the popularity of Indian textiles in Britain. Next, the British forced the farmers in India to grow more and more cotton and sell these to them at very cheap rates. The raw cotton was then exported to Britain. From Britain, the finished cotton textiles was imported into India and sold here. Britain adopted a very intelligent strategy. It implemented tax-free trading for British goods in India. Thus, naturally, Indian handicrafts faced a decline in India itself because now machine-made goods, which were faster to produce and much easier to produce, costed less, and the fact that these were tax-free allowed the British traders to sell it at even cheaper rates. For example, if a handmade Indian cotton garment costed rupees 10, the British could sell the machine-made cotton garment at rupees 5. Also, machine-made goods naturally had a better finish to them. Soon, the popularity of the British goods in India started to grow, and more people went on from buying Indian cotton garments to British cotton garments. Thus, in a single blow, the Indian handicraft industry was destroyed and several artisans were out of their jobs. India was now reduced to a source of raw materials and a market for the finished British products. By the time the 19th century arrived in India, several Indian scholars like R.C. Dutt, M.G. Ranade and Dadabhai Naoroji started studying British economic policies in India more closely. Observing the deplorable situation India was in, that is, it was reduced to a mere supplier of raw cotton and a buyer of machine-made finished British products, Dadabhai Naoroji in the year 1867 proposed the famous drain of wealth theory. He later included it in his book, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. Here he mentioned that there was a drain of wealth from India to Britain in the form of raw materials, profits made by the British in this country, gifts made to them, and the salaries received by the English officials who were working here. Now, what did Dadabhai Naoroji exactly mean by the word drain? To put it simply, the word drain meant that the money that was going out of India was much more than what was coming in. The administrative changes that was implemented by the British in India and sometimes in Britain as well were put into effect by using money extorted from India. In fact, the railways, which is considered to be the greatest gift by the British, was run in this country using money from India and not any investment from Britain. If this wasn't all, salaries and pensions of British officials working in Britain were also being paid from the money collected from India. So as you can understand, India was paying for the development of Britain more than herself. The drain of wealth theory in turn led to an increased level of awareness about the true nature of British rule in India. This thus led to an increased nationwide struggles in India, which received a major boost in 1885 with the formation of the Indian National Congress. Now, if I ask you, what is the foundation of development in any society? It's education, right? An educated mass is probably more important than anything else for a particular society. So, the education policies that a government introduces is of paramount importance, and this was true for the British as well. The British introduced a number of policies which changed the education system in India. To understand why the British introduced those policies, we need to first look at the different groups of British that came in India and who wanted very different things for the country. The first most important group of British who came in India quite early during their rule were the Orientalists. These included people like William Jones, Jonathan Duncan, and Warren Hastings. They thought that the traditional form of education in India was good enough and it should continue that way. Only one change was required. Western education, which focused more on scientific education, should be introduced. But they believed that this should be introduced and passed down in vernacular languages or the regional languages so that the people could adapt to it quite easily. They also believed that in order to rule India well, they needed to understand its culture and the languages that most people spoke here. Thus, they started to translate many Indian works into English so that other British people could also read them. For example, the famous work by Kalidasa, Abhignana Shakuntalam, was translated into English by William Jones. He also set up the Asiatic Society of Bengal in Calcutta to promote Asian studies. This society is still functional and you can see the current building of it in the Park Street area of Kolkata. Jonathan Duncan established the Sanskrit College in Benares to promote the study of Hindu laws and literature, and Warren Hastings established the Calcutta Madrasa, which is now known as the Alia University in Calcutta, to promote the study of Islamic law and literature. Thus, as you can understand that these people were trying to be one with the country they were living in, and they were trying to improve but maintain the value of the traditional Indian education. So what was this traditional form of education? Let me tell you a short story. Villages used to have pathshalas for Hindus and maktabs for Muslims like the ones here. These used to impart primary education in arithmetic and religious studies. Teaching was done orally and there were no set fees. Students could pay their teacher whatever little they could. Sounds amazing, right? But higher education was limited and only available in cities under royal patronage. But everyone got at least the basic education. One fine day, a group of Englishmen came to these pathshalas and maktabs and told that these will be closed down and primary education would be imparted in urban schools set up by the British. Also, people could no longer use Sanskrit or Persian for teaching. They had to use the English language. Such a big change. But why did this happen? To know this, we have to talk about another very important group of the British called the Anglicists. These were basically the opponents of the Orientalists. They included people like Thomas Macaulay, William Bentinck, and James Mill. They wanted the promotion of Western education in India, and this, according to them, should be done in English. But why was it so? This was because, according to them, Indian education was primitive and it did not have any scientific basis. But why do you think they wanted to do it in English and not in any vernacular languages? The answer is really simple. They realized that rather than learning a number of different languages, it was much easier for them to teach a group of people one single language, that is English, and this would help them communicate better. But the Orientalists, who thought way differently, opposed this group, and often they were engaged in a situation of conflict. So, when the Charter Act of 1813 was passed and it assigned rupees 1 lakh for education in India, a heated debate between the Anglicists and the Orientalists arose regarding the use of this money. While the Orientalists wanted the spread of Western education in vernacular languages, the Anglicists wanted the same but in the English language. Finally, the balance tipped in the Anglicists' favor when William Bentinck passed the Minute on Education by Thomas Macaulay in 1835. This minute basically proposed the idea of making English the medium of teaching in schools, and thus it officially introduced English education in India. A number of English medium schools began to be set up, and by 1844, English became the official language of the country. An important step in this endeavor came in the form of Wood's Dispatch in 1854. This was named after its author, Charles Wood, who was a British Member of Parliament. He proposed a graded system of English medium schools, colleges, and universities should be established in India. According to this proposal, an education department should be set up in India, and this would supervise the education system here and distribute funds among various institutions. Institutions for training teachers were also set up. The Wood's Dispatch proposed a number of regulations which educational institutions had to follow. Like, teachers were asked to teach from a prescribed textbook and follow a specific routine. This was different from before, when teaching was done orally and classes used to meet whenever both the student and the teacher were available to meet. Students before could wear their clothes of choice, but now students were made to wear a same set of clothes as a uniform. The method of assessing each individual student on their subject of choice was replaced by the method of universal examination, where all students had to appear for the same examination, something, as we know, is still followed in India. Classes now were held for a specific time. This was different from before, when classes were held for a time comfortable with both the student and the teacher. Previously, students could pay the teacher whatever he could, but now, whether the student was poor or rich, all of them had to pay the same fees. Naturally, sometimes these fees became a lot for a poor student and they started dropping out. Also, educational institutions which did not follow these guidelines were given no aid from the government and they started withering away. All this resulted into mass illiteracy. Did you know the universities at Mumbai, Madras and Calcutta were all established as a part of the Woods Dispatch? However, you need to note one thing here. The concept that Western education and ideas should be spread among Indians was first brought here by the Christian missionaries who came to India to spread Christianity. One of the most important people in this endeavor was William Carey, who came here in 1793. He translated the New Testament of the Bible into several Indian languages like Bengali and Sanskrit. And so that these translated copies reached the masses quickly, he also set up a press in Sirampur, which is near Calcutta. But why are we talking about this? Why is this so important? If you think about it, if it weren't for British endeavors, you and I won't be talking in English today. But this is more of a long-term effect. What happened immediately? As we know, educational institutions set up by the British was located mostly in urban areas. Naturally, the rural areas were left neglected. The pathshalas and the maktabs, which provided primary education to all, were now closed down. Also, as we have seen, the fees of these urban primary schools were so high that most of the time it could not be afforded by poor students and they had to discontinue their studies. All these naturally led to mass illiteracy. However, English education in India had some positive effects too. One important effect was the fact that Western education widened the social outlook of Indians. And this can be understood from the fact that a successful movement took place in India which gave girls the right to pursue education and which was initiated by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He also initiated a movement which started the practice of widow remarriage. Western education also inspired other social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who tried and stopped heinous acts like sati and child marriage. More importantly, because of the introduction of English education in India, India now got a common language. Previously, people from different parts of the country spoke in different languages, and so there was a lack of communication between them. Now, this was done with. So, what happened? Communication became easier in different parts of the country. Previously, people used to speak in different languages in different parts of the country, but now they had a common ground, a common language where they can converse with each other. The British initially thought that having a common language for all would give them a loyal class of people who would help the British in their activities in India. But as it turns out, things took an entirely different turn. Protesters against the British rule now had a language to communicate with each other. Soon, the seeds were sown for several revolutionary movements in India, and the stage was set to witness a truly nationwide struggle against the British, the success of which we celebrate each year on the 15th of August. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So, at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So, register for free now.